I've collected a summary of some of the worst vehicles that I've reviewed this year. Yes, while I've looked over a lot of amazing cars, some great new innovations, some great cars, great performance, and great styling, the bottom line is I'm going to share a list of some of the worst vehicles, bar none, gloves are off. Yeah, that's right. Some of these vehicles are the worst vehicles I've ever encountered, whether it's bad recalls, bad engines, problematic designs, electronics enough to choke a horse. I'm going to expand on my experience, my knowledge, and years of being in the automotive industry to share with you some of the facts and some of the big issues that some of these cars have had. And if you've been shopping for vehicles, some of you may own some of these cars, and you can probably confirm what I'm about to tell you. If you're not currently an owner and you're maybe debating buying some of these models that are carried over to the next year, buyer beware, because I'm going to share a list of some of the worst vehicles that I've found in this year. Now, why don't we just take this from the top? I'm going to drop the gloves. Here it is, bar none. The first vehicle on the list, of course, is the Toyota Tundra. That's right. Unfortunately, it pains me to say this, and it's been getting a lot of press. It's been getting a lot of airtime, and while a lot of critics have really been hard on the Toyota Tundra because of its new, really redesigned 3.4-liter V35A V6 engine. That's right, comes twin turbocharged, direct injection, and unfortunately, it's also come with a host of rod bearing failures. That's right, there's been all kinds of engine catastrophes. It started back in 22, and then they expanded recalls to 23 and 24, and now we're hearing potential problems expanding out to this current generation year. Now, it's unfortunate because Toyota, they always come out with something great. And like most reviewers say, you know what, avoid the first 1 to 2 years. But unfortunately, we're going well past 1 to 2 years because now with bearing problems, the suggestion that there may be particulate left in the engine is only part of the issue. That Toyota's been struggling with reliability problems along. And unfortunately, with these durability problems, engine failures, long block, short block changes, the fact is many customers have been put out trying to get these engines replaced unexpectedly, thinking that they were buying the latest and the greatest. Whether you're buying a capstone or a very entry level Tundra, it didn't seem to matter. You were likely in for a world of hurt. Now, while there's a relatively small percentage actually failing, the point is we're well up into the hundreds of thousands and beyond potential engine failures. Now, Toyota, if you have faith, like I have faith, I believe Toyota will eventually get this sorted out. But there have been critics suggest that it's more than just metal particulate. Some say it's the thinner grade of oil. Some say it's an engineering faux pas. Some say it's just a variety of different issues or quality control challenges. Whatever it is, this just does make, unfortunately, my list of some of the worst vehicles that I have encountered in the last few years, and this year specifically. But that rolls us right into a brother, cousin, upper aunt, uncle, if you will, Lexus. That's right. It's the luxury brand of Toyota, which I just spoke of. The Toyota Tundra, now the LX600, which unfortunately shares the same engine. But did you realize that same 3.4-liter twin-turbo V6, which was touted as being better performing, outperformed, better, more economical, and certainly has a better, I guess you could say, duty factor than the outgoing 5.7. The unfortunate reality is not just the Tundra, not just the LX600, which I'm speaking of, which is also on the radar for some of the worst vehicles of this year, but also now recently they just expanded the recall to the GX550, which shares the same engine. Mark my words, as we expand out to 2026, you're probably not expecting it, but I truly believe, in my own personal opinion, the Toyota Sequoia, which is going to be another one added. Now, it hasn't formally been put on that list yet, but for my own personal reasons, my time in the industry, my experience would tell me, hey, if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. So you're looking at vehicles like the Lexus LX600 and beyond that are also on the list of some of the worst vehicles I've reviewed. They're beautiful, they're chocked with tech, and almost everything else is reliable on them, but I just can't get past an engine where it's a roll of the dice whether you've got an engine failure. Another one on my list are anything by Nissan. For example, the Rogue with the VC engines. That's right, the variable compression engines, which takes instead of replaces a conventional crank connecting rod and replaces it with a series of joints, changes, alters the compression ratio, all for the name of efficiency, performance, economy. And here we go again, the old song and dance about the EPA, carb standards, going with the smaller engines, whether it's the VC Turbo 3s or the upscale engines, the VC Turbo 4s. Nissan engines with the variable compression engines have been some of the worst, most problematic. I mean, I believe right now we're up to 400, 500,000 engines that are potentially recalled. Oil burning or catastrophic failures are the name of the game. And while Nissan's made great strides in some of the recent technology, they still do house some of the most reliable vehicles. In my own personal opinion, some of the best small to mid-sized trucks available in the market are the Nissan Frontier. It's one of the few that still hosts a 3.8-liter V6 engine. That's right, no turbos, no CVT transmissions, just a torque converter auto, a naturally aspirated V6, and a good old reliable truck that has a very minimized level of technology. Many people don't like the Nissans, but I think Nissan, when they're doing it right with vehicles like the Pathfinder, the revised version, or the Frontier, or the Z cars, they actually have some great vehicles and great products. The unfortunate part is some of their innovation just hasn't caught on. And that's right, anything with the variable compression engine is definitely going to make my list of absolute no-goes. And this review of 2025 shows that those are some that you definitely want to avoid. Now, let's move this right along, shall we? How about EVs? Well, we all know we can talk EVs all day long, and it's not one of my favorite topics. But how about the Volkswagen ID Buzz? With vehicles that start around $60,000, $65,000 US, and I've seen them crest on the Canadian side of the border anywhere from $85,000 to $90,000. It's absolutely asinine that anybody's buying an ID Buzz. But wait a minute. Nobody is buying the ID Buzz, and that's part of the problem. See, with these price tags, the fact that they have mediocre range, they were really dragging along on the laurels and riding on the hips of what they had in the past with that cute little Volkswagen Buzz, or the bus, if you will. But now they come up with this Volkswagen ID Buzz, which is supposed to bring back the retro designs, retro style. And honestly, if they offered up an internal combustion version of the ID Buzz, I think they might be onto something. But they've done two things collectively at the same time, got ahead of the game, overcharged for that technology, and then unfortunately have nothing to offer but a high price tag, reliability challenges, and a product nobody's buying. Hence, they are pretty much lined up for discontinuation. The ID Buzz, certainly not something I would recommend, and certainly one of the lowlights for me this year. Another one I want to talk about are, of course, well, let's just be honest. GMC, Chevy, anything with the L87 engine. I don't need to beat a dead horse. The dead horse has been run over 1,000 times over and over and over again. When you hear about 877,000 engines recalled, when you hear about almost 1 million engines recalled, between GMC, Chevy, Cadillac, all these vehicles that are utilizing some variation of that 6.2-liter V8, denoted as the L87, it doesn't inspire confidence. There's been discussions about, different tolerances, challenges with the supply chain, being that a lot of these cranks were ordered in from a Mexican supplier, combined with the grade of oil being far too thin, shearing forces are aggressive, tighter tolerances, matching up with particulate in the engine, and allegedly bearing failure caused largely because of journal sizes and inconsistencies with polishing on the crankshaft. You put that all together with transmissions that have issues, door handles that come off, technology that needs a rework, and you've got a recipe for disaster. Now, I love the GMCs and Chevy trucks. I think they are a beautiful vehicle, and we've had many of them in our family for many, many years. Growing up on a farm, I've always loved GMC trucks. The unfortunate reality is, I think I'm going to sit this one out. You know what? I'm going to wait until the next generation of engines. Well, you're in luck because GM and Chevy have announced that they're probably likely coming out with something, a whole new series of V8 engines. Well, that's great because while everybody else is going turbocharged 6s, Chevy hopefully will stick with some naturally aspirated V8s. And I really wanted to love that 6.2. But even in GMC and Denali's and the Silverados and anything with the upscale 6.2-liter L87 meant that you were rolling a dice of despair. That's right, with catastrophic engine failures related to all kinds of technicalities underneath the crank, within the crank, the bearings, you name it. I could begin and end all day long with a whole list of problems that GM's been exposing and experiencing. The fact is, that's one vehicle, well, a series of vehicles, if you will, with that V8 that I'm skipping, and certainly a highlight of some of the lowlights for the year. Well, moving right along, why don't we talk some of the European vehicles? How about the BMW X3? I'm a big advocate for some of the older BMW products. You know, when they brought out the B48, the B58, they finally had an engine that was somewhat durable, much better than previous generations. You know, they had a 3-liter single turbo twin scrolls inline 6, or they had the B48, which is a 2-liter turbo 4, and they were both relatively reliable. They were both built on modular platforms, heat encapsulation, and all kinds of enhancements that made them much better than the outgoing drivetrains. I also love the outgoing BMW X3, and I definitely touted that as one of their best sweet spots in the lineup until now. Now BMW has redesigned the X3. The interior really doesn't have a whole lot of knobs and buttons. It's all capacitive. It's all touch screens. It's all shiny plastics. Even the door handles look like they've stepped down, and the overall interior quality looks like it's absolutely taken a nosedive. In my own personal opinion, styling is toilet. Exterior, interior. If you like flashing lights and LEDs, or you like the sunset and the lights of Las Vegas Strip as the sun goes down, you'll probably like the interior design and theme of the new BMW X3. But if you don't want to be illuminated while you're driving down the road and have somebody looking at you because you're in a spotlight, because they can see through your front windscreen due to all the lights and LEDs, well, this isn't really the car for you. And I'm not a big lover and the fan. I think I digressed with the technology, overload, plastics, and all kinds of other tech designs just means it's an ugly duckling. That's right. I hate to say this. Clamshell hood, rear design that is absolutely abysmal. And I'm just personally not a fan of this new X3. I think the ZF 8-speed automatic that they put in that vehicle is still as good as ever. That's one of the best. As is the drivetrain, still a decent drivetrain packaged under the hood. But it's all that overload of tech, lighting, and lower quality that you're finding interior-wise that just has me taking a back seat and a nod. Thanks for coming out, BMW. Let's take this to the next one, and this one really pains me because I truly been touting Mazda as being one of the best car manufacturers here, this year, last year, the year before. That's right, some of their great products, the 2.5-liter inline 4, Sky Active, the 2.5-liter inline 4 turbo, and the GTs and turbo models are reliable. They're great. They're wonderful. Torque converter autos, 6-speed manuals, or autos available in some of the models. But then they have the CX-90. The CX-70 is also a 2-row version of the CX-90, which is sort of a luxurious version, trying to copy BMW's ingredients with an inline 6-cylinder. But the unfortunate reality, drivability problems, stalling, reprogramming, PCM issues, ECM issues, all kinds of problems, potential engine failures. There has been no shortage of quality challenges with the CX-90, and it bothers me to no end when I look on one hand, they have some of the most reliable vehicles on the market, and now they have growing pains on this other end of the spectrum. CX-90 isn't one necessarily I'm advising right now. I love the looks. I like the in theory and specifications and the 3-row options with the plush seating and some of the technology, the fact that you can also get a plug-in hybrid. But a big part of the problem with the CX-90 is they've pushed their price tag up there into Audi, Merc, BMW territory. But it's a Mazda. And it's not about being snobby. It's not a luxury brand. And if they want to upscale and do something, they're going to have to come up with something a little bit more unique. Kind of like Acura, spawned off of Honda. Or Lexus, came out of Toyota. Maybe it's time for Mazda to spread their wings and do something more unique. But as it stands, as a branding perspective, that's a lot of money for a vehicle that's not all that tried and true yet. Quality challenges. Quite honestly, the CX-90 isn't necessarily one that's making the radar for me. The next one here, unfortunately, is the Ford F-150 Power Boost. Power Boost, yeah, that's their hybrid. F-150 is one of the most popular trucks on the market today. We know they're swapping punches with GM and Chevy and their V8 engines that Chevy's popping out. Ford's been some of the most popular full-size trucks as well. The unfortunate part is the Power Boost in the hybrid means there's a whole new set of challenges. Vibrations. I'm hearing customers complaining between 60 and 80 miles an hour getting a shimmy. Has to do with torque converter issues. turbocharger failures, inverter problems, fusing undersizing, and a whole host of issues, turbos and engine failures galore. Now, while it's not the most unreliable vehicle on the market, the fact is there's a lot going on for a car manufacturer that it's already wearing that crown of thorns. That's right. We're talking about the crown. The crown, of course, of recalls. Yes, they're the king of recalls. Ford is one of the recall leading kings. And honestly, the power boost just adds another dimension to some of the failures that you would anticipate. Do I like the truck? Yes, it's an attractive vehicle, offers some level of technology. And as a matter of fact, Ford's doing some great things there. I love the body. The fact that they're using more aluminum means that corrosion's less of an issue. And I like the innovation that Ford's doing in some of their vehicles. We've also heard the Ford talk about, the CEO mention that they're kind of veering away from going EVs. That's why the F-150 Lightning is going bye-bye. But unfortunately, the power boost is sticking around. And Ford's recognized that customers are looking for more affordable options. Probably late range extenders or naturally aspirated engines are what customers are really looking for. The power boost has a potential future, but they've got to get some of these problems sorted out. And there's been no shortage of recalls with the Ford F-150 power boost specifically. If you want an F-150, go with something that looks more like a 3.5, or even better, go with the 5-liter Coyote. That's the engine I would do. Now, that being said, the Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe is on another list of its own. And we've talked about this recently, how Jeeps has struggled with some recall problems, struggled with quality issues. Have you heard the latest with both the Wrangler and the Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe products? Sand in the engine, not properly cleansed, potential catastrophic failures resulting in recalls. We also can't forget about failures, batteries dying. We can't forget about some of the issues, recalls on programming. How some of these vehicles were even bricked when there was an over-the-air update. Meant that there was no shortage of problems. Things have gotten so bad that the CEO even reached out and said, "We so sorry, folks. We are so very sorry. Here's $100. Don't let it knock you on the way out the door." That's right. They've offered a $100 card for the troubles, telling people that they shouldn't park their hybrid vehicles inside for fear of a potential risk of fire, which could potentially lead to burning down a person's house or garage. So they've said park outdoors temporarily. Here's a card. We'd recommend you not driving in full electric mode. Rather, just toggle it over to ICE mode, and here's some extra gas money for you because we're not giving you everything as promised. There's no shortage of quality challenges between the Jeeps, the Wranglers, the Jeep Grand Cherokees, between fit and finish problems, and on top of it, when you're looking at the range toppers exceeding $100,000 out the door price for some of the top trims on the Jeep Grand Cherokee, it begs the question, who is going to buy that vehicle? I mean, Stellantis got ahead of themselves, of course, a few short years ago when the current, well, at the time, not the current CEO, but at the time, Tavares had said, you know what, they're going full all in with EVs. They're trying to get ahead of the market. But unfortunately, the rest of the market wasn't ready for it. And let's be honest, a Jeep is one of the best-selling products and Ram in the North American market. And North American buyers still are gravitating to internal combustion vehicles. And what happens when you tell the customers that they want something that they really don't? Sales take a dive. And so the only way they were able to sell these vehicles was with massive incentives. But between quality challenges and all the other issues and recalls, it means they're vouching, they're arm wrestling Ford for Recall King. That's right. Unfortunately, these are some of the worst vehicles I found this year after reviewing throughout the year. There are some real duds out there. There's some other Spudsnicks. But I'm telling you, if you're looking for some great options, if you want some cool vehicles, if you want a great SUV, go for a Lexus. Yeah, try something along an NX 450 plus H. You get the hybrid, but it's reliable. Try a Toyota Camry. It's a hybrid, but it's reliable. It still uses their base 2.5 tucked away under there. If you want reliable, go with a Ridgeline. Go with that Nissan Frontier. If you want reliable, go with a Mazda 3, CX-5. Those are reliable. If you want a basic Honda, sure. Go with the basic Honda, 2-liter. Try to find a manual if you can. If you want a full-size truck, there's not many options out there. But as I've said, the 5-liter Coyote might just be one of those. As well, I want to wish each and every one of you a happy New Year's. Hope you all have your safe travels, wonderful evening out, and 2026 promises to be a whole new year of cool innovation, great technology, but hopefully more reliability. Please do drop a line. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you all real soon, everybody. Bye bye.